It is true that football receives the lion's share of Nigeria's sporting expenditure and attention, but there is no denying the enormous potential that exists within basketball. The talent is undeniable, and the little success that we have achieved continentally is constantly sniffed at by those who believe that Nigeria should be the #1 basketball nation in Africa and at least a top 10 country in the world in both the men and women's divisions of the sports. Well, joining us now tonight on the show is Ugo Udezwe. He's a former national team player, power forward with the Tigers back in the day, but he has since retired from the sport and is now CEO of AFA Sports and a member of the Nigeria Basketball Federation Board. He actually is the chairman of the Sponsorship and Marketing Committee. Ugo, always an absolute pleasure to see you. It's been a while, actually, but thank you so much for joining us tonight on Game On. Well, I mean, we're a big company, guys. But Ugo, do you agree with that assertion that going by everything that Nigeria possesses in terms of basketball ability, well, could we and should we be the #1 team in Africa and a top 10 team in the world?
Well, there's always room for progress. Nigeria basketball is #1 in Africa. And also top 10, I think top 11 in the world right now. So there's always room to be #1 in the world, but there's progress. And every time there's progress, the needle is moving in the right direction.
So speaking about progress, we were talking earlier on about outsourcing some of Nigeria's sporting talent, yeah? And we were talking earlier on about fencing, if you caught that. And there are those, I've spoken to quite a few people in Nigeria's basketball sporting firmament, and they believe very strongly that we should just hands off basketball here in Nigeria and pretty much go and bring in all those American-born kids who started playing basketball at the age of 3 and 4. There are lots of them in the NBA, lots of them in the NCAA. Do you agree with this as well?
Listen, I was listening to the conversation you guys were having on this matter, and I thought it was interesting. Personally, I believe in Nigeria, and anywhere is a Nigerian for everybody. You know, if someone wants, and I think the narrative that maybe the fencing player came to Nigeria just because he wanted a spot. You know, some of these people are more passionate about Nigeria than some of us that were born in Nigeria.
Really?
And some of them love their country more than, exactly. I mean, even if you talk about in sales of Nigerian uniforms and everything, you sell them more abroad than you sell in Nigeria.
True.
So some of these kids love their country. Some of them have opportunities to be in other countries and to play for other countries, but they still choose to be Nigeria. You know, and if you don't live in Nigeria and you have children, you know, some of them are more passionate about Nigeria than some of us. So I think it would be unfair to say that they can't play for Nigeria because they were born. I know it's different standards, you know, but the kid that is going for and the fencing that's doing so well, I think he now provides a shining light to the local leagues. And look at what our female basketball is doing. You know, they went to the Olympics. Yeah, most of them are from diaspora, but it's going to open up a lot of hope for kids back in Nigeria. It's going to shine a light on the federation. It's going to open more doors for sponsors and more opportunity for people locally. So there's a win-win situation, and I understand the grassroots needs to grow. I understand that we have to invest more and do more, but in terms of fencing, it's an expensive sport. You can't have them in every local government. This is a sport that probably happens in 2 or 3 cities in the country. Just like basketball, you know, but, you know, it's progress. It's an opportunity for them to grow. It's an opportunity for them to bring in more sponsors and develop their game.
Okay. Favor, any question?
All right, Ugo, good evening to you, and thank you very much for joining us. I mean, you look at the basketball scene in Nigeria at the moment, the women seem to be doing better at the moment than the men, and you just talked about having you know, more of Nigeria players. Those who, of course, have the heritage, they can also come around and also develop the sport. How can we bridge the gap between our home-based players in basketball, especially, of course, the male angle, with the players who, of course, play outside of Nigeria? How can we bridge the gap, knowing fully well that they have they're playing in different terrain?
Well, I think that's a very good question, and thank you. That's for me. We have to develop the home games. We have to develop the home opportunities. You know, I think even in basketball, I'll start with basketball. I think everybody is leaning on the government or the federations to do to start a basketball league. If you go to the United States or Europe, most of the leagues there is private enterprise. And I think a lot of people are just waiting there to be part of the federation, to be part of government, to think they're going to work a miracle. The only thing that can develop sports in Nigeria is private equity, and not just from a sponsorship or from a foundation point of view, but from like a real equity-driven enterprise. You know, if you're having a basketball league, it's on you to bring in more fans. It's on you to develop more consistency, you know, and create more marketing. There's real opportunities in this business. These are like real enterprises, and it's still virgin. And a lot of people just sit down and wait. I think more focus on private enterprise would definitely galvanize the local sports.
Yeah, and that's actually my next question to you, Ugo. I mean, like, you're chairman of the sponsorship and marketing committee of the MBBF, and there are those who are pretty much weeping that for the past few years, domestic basketball has been pretty much moribund. We don't have a sponsor for the men's league. The women's league is also pretty much, it's consistent, but it's not as well run as it should be, or as well funded as it should be. But what challenges have you faced, really, as in your committee, in terms of raising the kind of profile or finance needed to develop these two domestic leagues?
I think the most important thing here is, again, I don't think the federation is equipped in any way to run a professional basketball league. You know, I think the job of the government and the federation is to create an enabling environment for these things to happen. Like I said, in most countries, whether the continents of China, Asia, Australia, Europe, all the top professional leagues are owned by private enterprise. So we have to do more. Like, a lot of people are waiting around for the federation and the government. That is why we are moribund, because in the federation, how many people, they're mostly bureaucrats. I have people that sit on that federation that don't know nothing about basketball. How are they gonna build leagues around it? You know, so I think it's on us to create opportunities. You know, we've tried the CBL, we've tried the ABL, and I think for us, we see this as an opportunity. You think of people like Taya Motion that's building an arena in Lekki there. You talk about people like Tunde Folawiyo, Musa Kida, Weber. Those are the people we should be leaning to, because just running a league, if you run a league that's hollow, that's not equity driven, it does not include the ecological system of the sports. You know, you talk about the journalists like you talk about the referees, the people that clean the floors, the facility workers. This is a whole economic enterprise that needs to be touched. And if you don't do it, you're just gonna keep repeating the same mistakes we've been doing for the past 50 years.
Sorry to cut you short, Ugo. So basically what you're saying is that there should be a private basketball league apart from the MBBF league, MBBF run league. But if I recall, we tried that in the past. You actually tried to actually start an African basketball league, which is the precursor of the NBA Africa League, the BAL that we currently see right now. We know how your ABL was shut down. So how can these private leagues thrive when there's so much animosity, so much people standing against them? And I do recall the likes of Lagos Islanders were actually banned from the league because they wanted to participate in your ABL. So how do you prevent this from happening, whereby the government doesn't consume or pretty much stand against these leagues and their progress?
That's a very good question, because when we started the ABL, people didn't believe that at that time, people are paying 25,000 Naira to watch a basketball game. We created an entertaining atmosphere where people feel safe and had a lot of fun. Because for me, it's not just about basketball. It's to creating an epicenter for fun, where people come with their families and have a good time. Yes, it didn't go so well because there was no enabling environment from the federation at the time. You know, I think it's where the government and the federation will come back and stand behind the people that are trying to do these things, because that is the only way it's going to work. You know, if you don't do it like that, I don't see any other. We're going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. You know, we have to find a way. And when we started the ABL, we were a little naive on some things when it concerns Nigeria. And when we start our league back again, I think it's going to be a whole different aspect. So I just think, for me, it's just creating the enabling environment. You know, like you mentioned, the Basketball Africa League is owned by the NBA. It's a private entity. You know, we're very happy to go and play, but we're building equity for somebody else that's not even African. You know, same thing with all these FIBA tournaments we go to. Somebody's making money out of it, but it's not us. So it's on us to support each other and find ways to do things internally, build brands together. This will create jobs for Nigerians. This will create opportunities for everyone if we're able to be successful doing that.
Okay, Ugo, interesting question I need to ask you. There are those who are arguing and been complaining that, you know, as a member of the MBBF, chairman of the Sponsorship and Marketing Committee, and also using your position as CEO of AFA Sports, which is one of Africa's premium sportswear manufacturer, that you have cornered the kitting contract for the Nigerian national team. How do you want to explain this? Because we do know that the Tigers wear your brand, and I think Cameroon too also competed with your brand. How do you want to respond to those who are accusing you of cornering the kitting contract for the Nigerian national teams?
First of all, I want to use this opportunity and make it very clear that my Alpha Sports has never received a dime from the Nigerian Basketball Federation. Wow. I personally have never received a penny in any form or even traveled under the Nigerian Basketball Federation before. So let's make this clear. I don't even think at this point that there's any African team that's been kitted by that has a sponsorship with any top brands in the world right now. All that ended about 4 years ago when FIBA consolidated its operations. For example, our women went to Rwanda to play the AfroBasket. Did any of you watch the game? What is the viewership for those games?
No.
The opportunity for a sports brand is in terms of viewership. These things are no more on national TV anymore. So there's really, for us as a brand, basketball contributes only about 10% of our revenue. So when people say that, they don't understand that this is actually a hardship. So let me make it very clear. Before I led the Nigerian under-18 team, when the Nigerian women finished playing in Paris Olympics, I reached out to Nike, the head of Nike Global. I still have a text message from her. I was trying to introduce her to the D-Tigress. She said, we will not in any terms deal with Nigeria again in terms of apparel sponsorship.
Wow.
That they had a bad experience from the last administration when they switched from Nike to Peak without any due notice. So Nike is no more interested in Nigeria until whenever.
Okay, so what about likes of Adidas, Puma? Are they not interested as well?
Let me get to that. I'll get to all of them. We offered the same opportunity to Adidas, even before the Olympics, out of desperation. Adidas said they are not interested, they wait till next year. Puma, came to us about a year ago, but they refused to go through the process of the AfroBasket. And they wanted to go straight to the Olympics. I said, that's not nice. That's not, and even what they were offering for the Olympics was no cash incentive. It was straight, a few T-shirts, uniforms, and a tracksuit. And I said, no, that's not going to work like that. There's a lot of process that leads to the Olympics. So they dropped out because maybe they didn't think this was possible. Even to go to the Paris, we had to find ways to make uniforms for the team 2 weeks before the Olympics, because nobody wanted. Even we asked other board members, if you have an opportunity to bring a sponsorship to the women, we're not even asking about money at this point. If you just want to donate uniforms, we'll be very happy to accept it. Nobody raised the finger. And our brand came up and brought these things. And all these things, I'm telling you, there's documentation for all of them. Even before we went to the under-18 tournament in Abidjan, same thing. Nobody wanted to kit 40 because it was the boys and girls team, and that's about 24 players with staff, and it's about 40 people. Nobody wanted to kit 40 players on a sponsorship because these games were also not shown on TV. There was no opportunity for media or anything. We did it out of, okay, we just wanted to help the country.
So let me get this straight, Ugo. Just let me get this straight. You said your AFA Sports did this kitting without receiving a penny from anybody.
I've never received one. We've never received one dime from anybody.
Wow.
Since inception.
So where do these allegations come from? Where are these allegations about how you cornered the kitting contract for the Nigerian national teams? Where are these allegations stemming from?
So the people that are saying it out of just being dubious. Because if you look at it, like this is something that happened to CBL. We are trying to grow a brand. AFA Sports did not start overnight. This brand was painstakingly built from one T-shirt at a time to where it is today. We've hired over 80 people. We've designed our products from scratch. We make all our products in Nigeria. I don't understand why people don't see the opportunity in that. They are talking about the president invested in Alpha Sport because he saw the opportunity. And we ask anybody that feels like, okay, this is something, why don't you put your money? But what you see is, you see a lot of people that want to talk the talk, but when it's time to spend money in sports, they just want to be part of the whole system, but don't want to put work into it.
Okay, Ugo, you've spoken quite passionately, but finally, before we let you go, a quick word on Nigeria's basketball prospects right now. Of course, South Sudan are #1 in Africa right now. We seem to have issues with the men's team that you played for so meritoriously in the past. We know that the women's program seems to be on lock. Everything seems to be going great with Rena Wakama and the girls. But how can we wrestle back that #1 spot in Africa in the men's game?
Honestly, at this point, I'm just going to say this on my own. I think our focus should be on growing the game locally. I think our focus should be finding partnerships to find a way to... The opportunity in basketball in Nigeria is amazing, is unbelievable. And I don't know why people don't see this. I think it's time for us to start incentivizing people and start laying a more productive opportunity for these young men and women. And it's not just about the game or love of the game or the entertainment. I think we have to, our energy 100%. And I'm not saying the international games is not important. And I'm not saying, because I think in any given day, we can bring the best basketball players and go and play. I think the hard work is developing the local game. And that is all I'm interested in moving forward.
Okay. We've been speaking with Ugo Udezwe, former Nigerian international, also CEO of AFA Sports, and also a board member of the Nigerian Basketball Federation. Thank you so much for your time tonight on Game On. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.